My straight workout partner leaned in during a squat, his warm breath on my neck, and whispered something that made the whole world stop moving. What he said changed everything I thought I knew about us, and about myself. My name is Raphael, I'm 26, I work as a graphic designer here in the city, and I never imagined that a simple request for a spot during an exercise could completely change my perspective on friendship, attraction, and that thin, dangerous line between the two. Let me tell you how it started. The gym has always been my sanctuary. You know, that place where you go not just to train your body, but also to switch off your mind from the chaos of everyday life. That's what it was for me. Every day at 7 in the morning before work, I was there. Same routine, same equipment, same playlist in my headphones. Predictable, safe, comfortable. It was on one of those normal days, about 6 months ago, that I met Tiago. He had just joined the gym and was a bit lost, trying to adjust the weight on a bench press machine. I was walking by when he looked at me with that slightly awkward smile and asked if I could give him a spot. Of course, I helped. We exchanged a few words, he thanked me, and that was it. Nothing special. But the next day, he was there again. And the day after that too, always at the same time as me. We started greeting each other, that basic head nod of people who recognize each other but aren't close yet. After a week, we were already exchanging a few sentences about training, about the muscle soreness from the day before, about how Monday is too cruel to exist. And it happened naturally. You know when you don't plan on becoming friends with someone, but suddenly you realize that person is already part of your routine? It was like that. In a short time, we were already synchronizing our workouts. He did chest, I did chest. He moved on to legs, I went with him. We helped each other with exercises, exchanged tips, laughed at our ridiculous expressions when the set was too hard. Tiago was 28, a civil engineer, and had that calm and direct way about him that I admired. No fuss, no drama. He was the kind of guy who says exactly what he thinks, unfiltered, but without being rude, sincere. And he had a somewhat dry sense of humor that perfectly matched mine. We teased each other all the time. I remember one day he came to the gym wearing a ridiculous t-shirt, one of those with a cheesy motivational phrase like, "Pain is weakness leaving the body." I couldn't resist. I walked past him and said loudly, "Dude, that shirt is a crime against good taste." He looked at me, gave that mischievous smile, and replied, "At least I don't wear those high socks you wear, Grandpa." We laughed so much that people around us stared, not understanding anything. That was it. It was light, it was fun, it was genuine. I liked being around him. And yes, I had already noticed that maybe I liked him a little more than I should have. But I pushed that thought far away. Tiago was straight. He talked about girls, dates, ex-girlfriends. And I had never talked about my personal life with him. Not out of fear, but because the subject simply never came up. And I preferred it that way. I preferred to keep what we had without complicating things. Because what we had was real. It was genuine. And it went way beyond the gym walls. We started opening up about work, about our frustrations, about the stuff you only tell someone who actually listens. He'd complain about crazy projects at his office, about impossible clients, about a boss who seemed determined to make his life hell. I'd vent about impossible deadlines, about clients who couldn't brief to save their lives, about that endless hamster wheel feeling of running, but never arriving. But here's what mattered. He actually listened. Not the kind of listening where someone's just waiting for their turn to talk. Real listening. He'd ask follow-up questions, remember details I'd mentioned weeks earlier, offer advice that actually landed. And I did the same for him. Before we even realized it, we'd become each other's support system. I started looking forward to those early morning workouts like nothing else. Not just for the exercise for him, for those post-workout conversations while we stretched, for the stupid jokes in the locker room, for that feeling of being completely seen by someone, even if it was just there in that space, in that moment. But I knew I had to be careful. Because sometimes, when we were doing an exercise together, when he put his hand on my shoulder to correct my posture, or when our eyes met in the mirror during a set, I felt something that wasn't just friendship. It was a pang in my chest. A desire for that moment to last longer. A dangerous curiosity about what it would be like to touch him in a different way. I mentally reprimanded myself every time it happened. "Stop it, Raphael. He's your friend. He's straight. Don't ruin this." And I really didn't want to ruin it, because his friendship meant a lot to me. Much more than I had the courage to admit, even to myself. I don't know exactly when it stopped being just a gym friendship for me. Maybe it was the day he showed up visibly upset, with tired eyes, and told me he'd fought with his girlfriend. Or maybe it was that morning when I arrived, frustrated with a project that had gone wrong, and he simply stopped his workout to sit with me and listen. Or perhaps it was from the very first day, from that awkward smile of his asking for help with the bench press. The truth is, I was emotionally invested in it in a way I knew was risky. But I couldn't stop, because being with him felt too good. He made me laugh, made me think, made me feel seen, and I didn't have many people like that in my life. One day, Tiago suggested we break the pattern. "Let's grab coffee after training," he said, "at this place near the gym." Honestly, it felt weird at first, seeing him outside our usual space, sitting across from me in workout gear. Suddenly the conversation felt different. But it wasn't weird bad, it was good. Really good. We sat there for nearly 2 hours, and we talked about everything. Real stuff. Dreams, fears, the things you don't usually share with anyone. He admitted he was terrified of sleepwalking through life, waking up in 10 years and realizing he'd never actually done what he wanted. I got it completely. I told him how sometimes I felt stuck in a routine I'd built myself into, but that no longer felt right. It was at that moment that I realized how similar we were, how much he understood things about me that I thought no one else did. And it was frightening, because the more I got to know him, the more I wanted to know, the more I wanted to be close to him. And this wasn't just admiration. It wasn't just friendship. It was attraction. It was desire. It was something I didn't know how to control, but I kept it all locked down. His friendship meant too much to risk, and I was absolutely convinced he'd never feel the same way about me. So I convinced myself that this was enough. The training sessions, the talks, the post-workout coffee ritual that had become our thing. It became my favorite part of the day. Getting up at that ungodly hour stopped being a chore and became something I actually looked forward to, because I knew he'd be there. We'd crack stupid jokes, push through workouts together, share that space, that time, that connection, and then everything shifted. At first it was barely noticeable. Tiago became quieter, distracted. During our workouts, his mind seemed miles away. I'd check in, "You good?" And he'd smile and say yeah, but I could tell he was lying. I'd known him long enough to read the difference. I gave him space, assuming it was work stress or girlfriend drama that he'd talk about when ready. But days turned into weeks, and he stayed off. Not cold exactly, but off. And every once in a while I'd catch him watching me, and the second our eyes connected he'd look away like he'd been caught red-handed. I didn't get it. And yeah, I was scared, terrified that somehow he'd figured out what I was feeling. Terrified this was the start of losing him. Terrified of losing the person who'd become everything to me. But I stayed silent. I acted like everything was fine, or at least tried to. We still trained together, still talked, still did the coffee thing, except there was this tension now. This unspoken weight hanging between us that I couldn't identify. Then came that day, a week later. Tiago walked in with a completely different energy. This wasn't the usual distraction. This was something heavier, more intentional. He greeted me normally, but his eyes said something else entirely. There was resolve there, purpose. We started our session, chest and triceps. Heavy stuff, needs focus. Tiago was locked in, serious, concentrated. When we got to the bench press, he loaded it way heavier than usual. Way heavier. I raised an eyebrow. "Dude, that's too much. You're gonna hurt yourself," I said. He looked at me dead serious. "I need you to spot me. Just trust me." Something in his voice stopped my protests. I just nodded. I took my position behind the bar, ready to catch it if he couldn't push it. He lay back down, grabbed the bar, and took this deep breath. That's when I felt it. Something was about to happen, something that would reshape everything. I didn't know what, but my entire body was screaming that this mattered. Like the universe was leaning in. Pay attention. This is it. This is the before and after. Tiago lifted the bar, and as he slowly lowered it to his chest, his muscles trembling with effort, I couldn't take my eyes off him. Off the sweat on his forehead, off the concentration on his face, off the vulnerability in that moment. And I had no idea that, in a few seconds, he would whisper the words that would stop time, dismantle all my certainties, and throw me into completely unknown territory. Because sometimes, the most important things in our lives happen in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the person we think we know so well holds secrets that can change everything. The next time we met, he asked me to spot him on an even heavier lift, and I should have realized something was coming. But nothing could have prepared me for what was about to happen. His breath was right there, warming my face as he pushed the weight up, his chest heaving under the strain. I had my hands positioned just below the bar, ready to help if he needed it. But I wasn't thinking about the weight. I was thinking about the absolute faith he had in me in that moment. Like I was the only person in the world he trusted completely, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't feeling every second of it. When he finished his last rep and sat up, wiping his face, I stepped back immediately. Like distance could undo what I was feeling. Like I could pretend I didn't want to stand there forever, that close to him. He looked up and smiled. That effortless, devastating smile that made my brain short-circuit. "Thanks, man. You're the best." I laughed, nervous, awkward. "Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for." But it was a problem. Everything was a problem. Because right there, I couldn't deny it anymore. I was completely, utterly in love with my best friend, and I had no fucking idea what to do about it. We'd had something special from day one. From the moment he asked for help at the bench press, and I, shy and a bit awkward, showed him the form. That's when we became training partners, and then real friends. The kind who talked constantly, met up outside the gym, shared stuff with each other that they didn't tell anyone else. But there, that day, something changed. Or maybe not. Maybe the change was only within me. Maybe I had finally stopped denying what had always been there. Hidden beneath every laugh, every conversation, every glance that lasted a second longer than it should have. After the workout, we went to the locker room as usual. But this time, he lingered. He sat there on the bench, looking at his phone without really looking. I noticed because I was doing the same thing, pretending to be busy when in reality I was just waiting. "So," he said suddenly, looking up. "Do you have anything to do now?" I blinked, surprised. "Now? Yeah, I don't know. We could grab some coffee, or just talk a bit more." "I don't know, man. I guess we never really talk properly here. There's always people, always noise." My heart sped up. It was just an invitation for coffee. Just that. But it felt like more. Or I wanted it to feel like more. "Sure, man. Let's go." We headed to this little coffee place near the gym. Tucked away, quiet, barely anyone there. I'd never noticed it before, but he clearly knew it. We grabbed a corner table, and I tried to act like this was no big deal. Except it was a big deal. Every word he said, every time his eyes met mine, I felt this heat climbing up my chest. This tightness in my stomach that I had zero control over. He opened up about work, how he'd been feeling lost. Like he was stuck on a treadmill going nowhere. I just listened, absorbed every word, every silence, every breath. "You ever get that feeling?" he asked, stirring his coffee. "Like you're checking all the boxes, good job, good life, but something's still missing? And you have no idea what?" I wanted to tell him I understood. That I felt it too. But I couldn't say a word. Because the question I really wanted to ask was, am I what's missing? Obviously, I didn't ask that. "I've been trying to figure out what actually matters to me," he said, finally looking straight at me. "What makes me happy? But I'm stuck." That landed heavy. There was more in that sentence than just the words. Something unsaid between us that I could feel but not touch. I was torn between wanting to know everything and being terrified of knowing too much. "You will," I said, the only thing I could manage. He smiled sad, distant. "Yeah, maybe." We sat there for another hour, just talking, about nothing and everything. And then, while he was telling me about this trip he wanted to take, he reached over and touched my arm. Just a quick touch, the kind people do when they're emphasizing a point, but I felt that touch everywhere, like he'd set something on fire inside me. And when he held my eyes for way longer than he should have, when he didn't look away even after the sentence ended, I just knew. It couldn't just be me. It couldn't be. Or could it? Was I imagining this? Seeing what I wanted to see? When we left, I went home completely unraveled, heart pounding, mind racing, with this overwhelming sense that something huge had just happened. But I had no idea what it was. The next few days, we trained like usual. But everything felt different now. Every time he got close, every time he smiled, every moment our eyes connected, I felt this crushing tightness in my chest. And it was getting obvious. I couldn't hide it anymore. In the way I looked at him. The half-second pause before answering when he spoke, finding excuses to be within arm's reach. A few days later at the bench, he was going heavy again, I was spotting. When he finished and sat up, breathing hard, he wiped his face and looked at me with this expression I couldn't read. "You're fucking incredible, you know that?" I went completely still. That came out of nowhere. I had no idea how to respond. "What do you mean?" I finally asked, trying to sound casual and failing completely. "I mean, you're always there, always ready, always actually present. That's rare, man. Really rare." My heart was hammering so hard. It was a compliment, just words, but it felt like so much more, like a window opening. Or maybe I was just desperate enough to see what I wanted to see. "You too," I said, voice shaky. "We have something real here." He smiled. Different this time, softer, more vulnerable. "Yeah, we really do." And right there, I hit a wall. I knew I couldn't keep doing this. Stuck in this gray area, not knowing if he felt it too, or if I was creating a fantasy. But asking felt impossible. Knowing felt impossible. The risk felt catastrophic. If I said something, if I admitted what I was feeling, what would happen? Friendship over? Would he run? Or would he say it back? I didn't know. And that uncertainty was destroying me. Days went by, and I realized I'd completely lost control. Every moment he showed up, my pulse raced. Every smile made my chest burn. Being alone with him was this constant hum of electricity that I couldn't shut off. One day we were in the quieter section of the gym, late afternoon. Hardly anyone around. He was doing rows, completely focused, sweat glistening. I was supposedly stretching nearby, but actually just watching how his muscles moved. The rhythm of his breathing, the way his jaw clenched at the hardest part of the lift. When he finished and caught me staring, there was no escape. No time to look away, to pretend I was looking at something else. He didn't look away either. He just stared back at me, then slowly smiled, like he knew exactly what was happening. And that smile, it wasn't a friend's smile. Or was I losing it? Creating a story that wasn't there? Going completely insane? I couldn't handle it anymore. The limbo, the tension, the fear of breaking everything. I made a decision right then. I started pulling back. Not dramatically, gradually, skipping some morning sessions, taking hours to text back, making excuses to skip the coffee runs. If I couldn't control my feelings, at least I could control the exposure. Protect myself, protect what we had. But he caught on. Of course he did. He always caught on to everything. 3 days in, he texted, "You good? You've disappeared. I made something up work, busy, the usual." He didn't buy it. "We need to talk. Something's going on." And before I could come up with another lie, he said, "I'm coming to your place tonight, after work." My stomach dropped. He'd never been to my apartment before. We'd always kept things public, the gym, cafes, neutral ground. Now he was coming. And I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. And then he was there, at my door. Expression unreadable but loaded determination mixed with something that looked like hurt. The last person I wanted to face right then. Because if I avoided him, if I didn't look at him, maybe it would all fade. The ache in my chest, the need to be near him, this feeling that something inside me was shifting and I had no say in it. But there he was, and his eyes told me running wasn't an option anymore. "Can I come in?" His voice was steady, but underneath it was this tension I'd never heard before. I stepped back, half frozen, half wishing I was dreaming. He came in and suddenly my apartment felt smaller. The air felt heavier. Like every square inch was packed with things we weren't saying. I closed the door. The click sounded impossibly loud. "You've been avoiding me." Not a question, a statement. Like he already knew everything. "I'm not. I've been swamped." My voice was pathetic. I didn't even believe it myself. He laughed sharp, bitter. "Swamped, sure." The silence was suffocating. We just stood there, him watching me looking at literally anything else. Part of me wanted him gone. The bigger part wanted him to stay forever. "Why?" His voice dropped low but had an edge. "Why are you ghosting me? I need to know." My heart was pounding, about to burst out of my chest. "It's nothing. I just..." "Don't bullshit me." His voice got louder. Not angry, frustrated. "We were brothers, man. Hours together, every day. The gym, after the gym, laughing about everything. And then you vanish? No explanation? You thought I wouldn't notice that?" I had nothing. Every word seemed like a lie because it was. Because he was right. I had run. I needed space, that's all. Space for what? He stepped closer. My entire body locked up. Space for what? To pretend we're not real? That what we had means nothing? That's not it. It came out too loud, too desperate. "It's not like that. You don't get it." "Then explain it." He threw his hands up. "Explain why you're standing in front of me, clearly falling apart, and you won't even look at me." He was right. Looking at him meant facing every feeling I'd been suppressing. And I was exhausted from running, from denying. "Sit down," I practically whispered. "Please." He hesitated, then went to the couch and sat. I stayed standing for another second, trying to find some kind of courage, trying to figure out how to say any of this. But there's no instruction manual for this, right? I sat on the far end of the couch, keeping space between us. Like distance could shield me from what was about to come. I don't even know where to start. I kept my eyes on my hands. I don't understand it myself. "Try." His voice had changed. Softer now, worried. I breathed. "I pulled back because being around you was doing something to me." Complete silence. The kind that feels like forever. I felt him watching but couldn't meet his eyes. "What do you mean?" he asked quietly. "You know what I mean." My voice shook. "You have to know. I need to hear you say it." That was the moment I was dreading. When I'd have to translate all the things I'd buried, hidden, denied into actual words. But when I looked at him, I realized I couldn't keep carrying this alone. "I can't be around you because..." My voice cracked. I tried again. "Because you make me feel things I'm not supposed to feel." The silence after that was crushing. My heartbeat was all I could hear. Every second felt like a year. "What kind of things?" he whispered. I finally looked at him. And the second our eyes connected, I felt everything I'd been holding back just crumble. "You know what kind?" Tears were burning my eyes. I try to stop it. I try to ignore it. But when you laugh, when you look at me, when you touch me at the gym, I feel it everywhere. And I know it's wrong. I know how it should be. But I can't turn it off. He said nothing. And that silence was actual torture. I just laid myself bare, completely exposed, totally vulnerable, and he had nothing. I was about to stand up, about to tell him to leave, when he finally spoke. "You think you're alone in this?" His voice had tension underneath it, something I couldn't name. I stared at him. "What? You think you're the only one feeling this?" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 100 times but never like this. Desperate. "You think you're the only one who's been losing it?" Trying to understand what the fuck is happening. My heart actually stopped. What? He looked right at me, and there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Raw. Terrified. True. I've been losing it too. Each word seemed to cost him. "I've been feeling things that I don't even know how to handle." "What are you saying?" I could barely get the words out. "I'm saying..." He took this shaky breath like he was about to jump. "I'm saying I'm not okay. I can't stop thinking about you. I look for you every day. And when you disappeared, it was like something died inside me. I couldn't process what I was hearing. My brain just shut down completely. But you said..." Words failed me. "I know." He shook his head. "I know it doesn't add up. I know it makes everything complicated, but I can't pretend anymore." We sat there on that couch with that confession hanging between us like something real. Something solid. Something that changed everything in an instant. "I don't know what to do with this," I said, barely audible. "Neither do I," he admitted. "But I know hiding it isn't working. Not for me." And then the tears came. Relief, fear, something I couldn't name. Because for the first time, I wasn't alone. Someone else felt it too. "What happens now?" My voice was breaking. He sat quiet for a minute, thinking. Then he stood up. For a second, I thought he was walking out the door, that he was running like I had. But he stopped in front of me instead. "Tomorrow," he said. "Come to the gym tomorrow." I looked at him confused. "Why?" "Because I need to show you," he said. "Not tell you. Show you." "Show me what?" He didn't answer. "You'll get it when you see it. Just, please show up." There was something in the way he said it. My pulse picked up. It felt like a vow. Or a threat. "Yeah, okay, I'll be there." What else could I say? He nodded like he wanted to say more, but didn't. He just turned and walked to the door. At the threshold, he paused. Looked back. I didn't want it to happen like this. His voice was barely there. "I didn't want there to be this much pain." "I know," I said. And then he was gone. I just sat there staring at that closed door. My apartment went quiet again, but different this time. Not the heavy, suffocating quiet from before. This was full of possibility, full of questions hanging in the air. What was he going to show me? What did that even mean? Why the gym? Why was tomorrow so important? I didn't sleep, just lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every look, every pause. He felt something too. He was confused too, but what exactly? And what did he want to show me? When daylight came, I'd already been awake forever. My body was shot, but my mind wouldn't stop. I showered, dressed, tried to eat but couldn't. Too much anxiety in my gut. I grabbed my bag and headed out. The walk to the gym felt endless. Every step brought new anxiety, new anticipation, new terror. I had no idea what was waiting. No idea what he'd say or show. I pushed through the gym doors and got hit with the AC. Same rubber and sweat smell. Same sound of plates hitting. Everything so familiar. So ordinary. Except nothing felt ordinary anymore. Then I saw him, by the bench press, waiting. Like he'd known exactly when I'd walk in. Like he'd been there all morning, just waiting. Our eyes locked. Time stopped. He nodded his head, "Come here." I moved toward him and every step felt heavy, weighted. My pulse was so loud I was sure he could hear it. When I reached him, he didn't talk. He just laid back on the bench, gripped the bar. Then, as he was about to push the weight, he looked at me and whispered something. So quiet I almost missed it. But I heard. And that's when the world shifted. When I walked in that afternoon, it was like the whole world had compressed down to just him and me. He was by the bench, waiting. And something was different. That easy confidence was gone from his face. He was anxious. I could see it in his jittery hands, the way he kept adjusting the weights, how his eyes looked for me, then immediately looked away. "You came," he said, and his voice was different, shaky. I'd never heard him like that. "Course I did," I replied, trying to sound steady but failing. I was just as nervous, maybe worse. He gave this weak smile and gestured to the bench. "I need you today." Going heavy. Heavy, right, as if weight was the actual problem here. I took my position behind him exactly like I always did, but this was nothing like always. The space between us felt electric. I could feel heat coming off his body before he even laid back. When he got under the bar, we were so close I could hear his breathing shift. "Good?" I asked, my voice barely there. He positioned his hands on the bar, adjusting the grip. His neck muscles were tense. "Yeah," he said, but he didn't lift right away. Just held it there, like he was gathering strength for something bigger than weights. Then he started. First rep smooth, controlled. My hands were barely touching, more security than help, my face inches from his. Second rep slower. By the third, I felt his whole body working, straining. My heartbeat matched his. Or maybe we just synced without thinking about it. On rep 4, he lowered the bar to his chest and looked straight at me. Our eyes connected, and the entire universe just vanished. The gym sound stopped. People disappeared. Just us, impossibly close, frozen in this moment. Then he whispered. Words so quiet I almost missed them under the pounding in my chest. But I heard every syllable, every breath, every break in his voice. I can't stop thinking about you. Time froze, not metaphorically, actually froze. I felt everything in perfect detail. The cold AC on my wet skin, his deodorant mixed with sweat, the metal bar ice cold in my hands, his breath on my face. He kept going, still holding the bar to his chest, locked on my eyes. I tried to convince myself it's just friendship. But it's not. Not anymore. Maybe never was. I couldn't process what I was hearing. The words were happening, but felt both infinitely far and impossibly close. Real and impossible at the same time. I'm in love with you. His voice shattered on those words. I have been for months. Every session with you, every conversation, every time you made me laugh at something dumb, I fell deeper. And I was so terrified to admit it, I almost lost my mind. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The bar hung there between us, his arms shaking, but none of it mattered. All the fear, all the doubt. Every moment I thought I was alone in this, hating myself for feeling something impossible and wrong, and one-sided it all just dissolved. He felt the same, the whole time. He felt exactly the same. Get me down, he finally said, his voice rough from emotion. My hands moved on instinct, helping him lift it and rack it. The clang sounded distant, muffled. He sat on the bench and I stepped back, still reeling, still trying to accept that this was real. He grabbed his towel to wipe his face, but it wasn't just sweat. I saw him turn away fast, trying to hide that his eyes were wet. I'm sorry, he said, voice breaking. I didn't want to do it like this. I know I'm your friend. I know this changes everything, but I couldn't keep lying. I thought I was losing my mind. The words just spilled out. I thought it was just me, that I was the only one. He looked up and I finally saw my own feelings reflected back. Fear, hope, completely raw. You weren't. My voice shook. You never were. I've been beating myself up for months. Nights where I couldn't sleep, spiraling about you and me and what any of it meant. I was so scared of losing you I almost lost myself. Then it happened. The moment he really understood. When it sank in that he wasn't alone. That I felt the same. That all those months of fighting it and denying it and being terrified he hadn't been carrying that solo. Really? Relief flooded his voice like it might break him. You too? From the first month, I said. Feeling months of secrets finally lift. Maybe even before that. I don't know exactly when, but I know when I couldn't hide it anymore. It was that night you took me to dinner after training and talked about your dreams, your fears, everything. And I thought, that's it. That's who I want. And I freaked. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, leaning in, eyes locked on me with such intensity it made me feel exposed and safe at the same time. Because you said you were straight, I told him plainly. Because you talked about women, exes, how your family wanted grandkids. I didn't want to be the asshole who blew up your life over feelings I thought only I had. He ran his hand through his hair, that nervous tell I knew so well. I thought I was straight, he said quietly. I was certain. And then you came into my life, and everything I thought I knew about myself fell apart. Every single thing I was sure about, who I was, what I wanted, what I believed, it all rebuilt itself around you. People moved around us, the gym kept functioning, the world kept spinning, but we'd stepped into our own universe. A space where only the truth existed between us. We need to get out of here, he said suddenly, grabbing his towel. Can't do this here. We hit the locker rooms fast. The shower area was empty, that gap between lunch crowd and afternoon rush. We stood between the metal lockers and that soap and sweat smell. Alone for the first time without walls. He closed the distance. No barriers, no bench, no reasons. Just him and me. I need to say this, he said, voice steady but low. I've never felt anything like this, never, for anyone. This thing with you, it's not male or female, it's not logical, it just is. It's real. Absolutely terrifyingly real. I know, I said, because I did. I've never felt this intensity before. This kind of certainty even when I'm terrified. He moved closer and suddenly I could see the details of his face, count his freckles, feel the warmth coming off him. Can I kiss you? His voice was barely there. I just nodded because words wouldn't work, and he kissed me. It wasn't like in movies. It wasn't huge or theatrical. It was gentle, almost tentative, like we were both testing if this was actually real or if we'd wake up. His lips were warm, and the kiss tasted like vulnerability and courage, and months of feeling that finally found an outlet. When we pulled apart, we were both shaking. "Is this happening?" he asked, forehead to mine, eyes shut. "Tell me this is real." "It's real," I said, gripping his shoulders because I needed something solid to prove I wasn't asleep. "This is actually happening." He opened his eyes, and I saw it all there. Relief. Joy. Something unnamed that I recognized because I felt it too. "I was so scared," he said, voice breaking. "Losing you would have been impossible. You matter so much to me. And I thought if I said anything you'd run and that would be it. Everything over." "I'm not leaving," I said, meaning every word with everything in me. "Not now. Not ever." He pulled me into him hard, like he needed to confirm I was solid and real. I held on just as tight, feeling his heartbeat against my chest, breathing in sync with him. "How many nights did we waste?" he asked into my shoulder. "How many nights did I lie awake wanting you when you were right there feeling the same thing?" "Doesn't matter now," I said, and meant it. "We're here. We found it. We found each other. We stayed like that. Time didn't matter. The world didn't matter. Everything complicated and uncertain and scary could wait." In that moment, maybe for the first time ever, I was exactly where I needed to be. When we finally separated, he put his hands on my face and looked at me with something that cut right through me. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Never been with a guy. Never thought this would happen. But I want to try. For this, for us. I want to make it work." "Nobody knows how to do this," I said, smiling. "We figure it out as we go." "As we go," he echoed like it was something sacred. Then he smiled, that same smile I'd always known, but different now. Not my workout buddy's smile. The smile of someone who loved me. Who'd said it? Who was here, brave and vulnerable and completely mine. "We'll have conversations we need to have," he said, reality creeping in. "My family, my friends, what we tell people, how we exist out there." "Yeah," I said, "but not tonight. Tonight I just need to be here with you and believe this is actually happening." He nodded, and we sat on the bench between the lockers, pressed together, hands locked. The weight we'd carried forever finally lifted. Everything unsaid was now said. The truth was out, and instead of the disaster we both expected, we had this peace, certainty, the feeling of finally being where we belong. "What happens next?" he asked after a long quiet. That was the real question. The confession had happened. The kiss had happened, but the world outside was still out there with all its complications and judgment and obstacles. "We face it," I said, holding his hand tight. "Whatever comes, we face it together." He looked at me, and I saw the promise of something we'd figure out together. Something unknown but worth discovering side by side. "Together," he said, and kissed me again. Deeper this time, certain hours, because it didn't matter how many hard conversations were coming, how many questions we'd have to answer, how many stares we'd get, how many obstacles would block us. That moment, the confession, the connection was unshakable. The ground everything else would be built on. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't afraid, because he was here with me, and I was here with him. And somehow that was everything. Sitting in his car later, time stretching out both forever and not nearly long enough. The gym closed, parking lot lights fading one by one, and we were still trying to process what happened. His words kept replaying in my head, burned into memory. He finally broke the silence, voice shaky in a way I'd never heard. "I don't even know who I am anymore. Does that make sense?" My heart broke, because I recognized that confusion intimately. I'd lived it. That moment when everything you believed about yourself shatters. "You don't need all the answers today," I said, putting my hand over his on the steering wheel. "Seriously, no deadline on figuring yourself out." He looked at our intertwined hands and laughed. Not a real laugh. I always thought I had it figured out. Gym guy, beers with the boys, football on Sundays, and now everything's unsure. Except you. You're the only solid thing. That landed hard. I'd spent so long thinking only I was confused, but he was facing something bigger. He wasn't just realizing he liked a guy. He was discovering a whole part of himself that had been invisible his whole life. "Want to know what I learned when I came out?" I asked, facing him. "That identity isn't permanent. It's not something you figure out and you're done. It's a journey. Something you discover as you go." "What was it like for you?" he asked quietly. "When did you know?" I took a breath and went back to it. I was 17 when I noticed I looked at boys differently. Not admiration, attraction. And the fear that caused was crushing. I'd grown up hearing it was sick, wrong, not who I was. I spent months trying to convince myself otherwise, forcing myself to like girls, being what people expected. Until I was 19, alone in my room, and I just couldn't keep doing it. The exhaustion of lying was worse than the fear. When I said I'm gay to my mirror, the world didn't change. Except I finally did. It was brutal, I told him now. I was terrified of losing everyone, of being cast out, judged, isolated. "Did you?" he asked, fear crossing his face. "Some people," I said honestly. But the ones who stayed, they were the real ones. And I got something better. I got myself back. He went quiet, processing. I'm scared, he said. My family, they're traditional. They have plans. My dad talks about me finding a woman, marriage, kids. How do I tell him that's not happening the way he wants? What about what you want? I asked softly. He looked at me, eyes shining. I want you, but disappointing people. He trailed off. Sometimes, I said carefully. Living your truth means people won't get what they expected from you. That's their problem, not yours. You're not responsible for their disappointment. He nodded slowly, still working through it. What about work? Friends? What if they think you turned me gay? Like I made you this way? I knew that fear. I'd worried about it too. Then they weren't paying attention, I said firmly. Nobody becomes gay. You already were. You were just figuring it out. If they can't tell the difference, that's on them. Are you scared? He asked. Of what? All of this. Us. What happens? I had to think about that. Yeah, I admitted. I'm scared it'll be too hard. Scared of losing you. Scared the world will hurt us. But I'm more scared of living a lie. Of pretending this isn't real just to make things easier. He took my hand, both of his holding it tight. I don't want to hide, he said, voice stronger. I don't want to hide you. So we don't, I said, feeling courage building. But we don't have to go public all at once either. We can pace it, one step at a time. He nodded and some tension eased from him. Where do we start? He asked. I thought and came up with something. Someone close. Someone you trust? He considered it, then nodded. Bruno, my oldest friend. If he's cool with it, it'll help with the rest. Then Bruno it is, I said, steadier than I felt. Next day, coffee after work. Casual setup. But I was as nervous as he was. This was our first time telling anyone. A test. If Bruno rejected us, what would we even do? We met downtown. Bruno was already there, waving us over. He had one of those faces that made everyone comfortable. Hey, you two, he greeted, clapping him on the shoulder. Long time? This must be the gym guy he never shuts up about. I laughed awkwardly and shook his hand. That's me. We sat and made small talk for a few minutes. Work, lifting, soccer. But I could see him getting more tense, hands shaking slightly as he held his cup. Bruno caught it too. You good? You're wound up. He took this shaky breath, looked at me for permission, then back at Bruno. I need to tell you something. Bruno's face shifted to serious. Go ahead, man. I'm seeing someone, he said, voice unsteady. It's serious. It's real. And it's him. He gestured to me. The silence was crushing. Bruno blinked, processing. He looked at me, then at him, then back at me. Wait, you're together? Like actually together? Yeah, he said. And I heard both fear and pride in his voice. More silence. Each second felt endless. I waited, hoped. Then Bruno exhaled and leaned back. All right, that's not what I expected. But like, a good surprise kind of unexpected? Good? He repeated, confused. Yeah, man, Bruno said, actually smiling. I've never seen you this happy. You're always talking about Gym Guy, how you two connect, how much better everything is. I thought you'd found some girl, but now it clicks. I felt relief flood my chest. Really? His voice was full of hope. Really, Bruno said. Look, I don't get all of it. Never thought of you that way. But if he makes you happy and it's real, then I'm in. You're my brother, and I want you to be happy. I saw his eyes light up, tears forming. He let out this relieved laugh and Bruno reached over, squeezing his shoulder. And hey, Bruno said with a grin, you finally got someone. I was convinced you'd be a lonely old dude. We all laughed and the weight finally broke. Walking out that afternoon, I felt lighter, because we'd stopped being a secret. We were real. Someone knew, someone accepted. That changed everything. He held my hand in the car, driving back something he'd never done outside private moments. If we survive telling Bruno, he said, that smile melting me. Maybe we can survive whatever's next. Maybe, I agreed, squeezing his hand. But I knew the real test was coming. His family, my family. The world that didn't plan on us. I was terrified. But I also had something I didn't before. Hope. Because when he looked at me before dropping me off and said, I don't want to hide this. I don't want to hide you. I knew he meant it, which meant we were really doing this. Together. Come what may. We'd been hiding for weeks since the confession. Since that night at my place. When he said out loud what he'd whispered. We were in our own separate reality. Just the two of us. Away from the world and its judgment and all the questions we didn't know how to answer yet. But bubbles always pop. And we both knew we couldn't stay hidden forever. I need to tell my family, he said one night, hand in mine, watching a movie we weren't really watching. His voice was shaky, but had this resolve underneath. About us. About how I feel for you. My pulse spiked. Not from doubt, but from fear of what it would do to him. To us. You sure? I asked, squeezing his hand. You don't have to rush this. We have time. He turned to me and I saw that same intensity from the gym when the world stopped. "I'm sure," he said, nervous smile but genuine. "I'm done pretending you're just my friend. You're way more. They need to know." He decided to tell them alone first. His family, his moment, but sitting outside that room waiting was torture. When his text came, "Come please," my entire body trembled. I walked in on shaky legs. His parents on the couch, his mom's eyes red from crying, his dad staring at the floor, his sister next to their mom holding her hand. "Hi," I said quietly. His mom looked at me and I couldn't read what she was feeling. Shock, confusion? Then she stood and came toward me. "Will you treat him right?" Her voice was heavy. "Completely," I said, feeling tears form. She nodded and did something I didn't expect. She hugged me hard, like she was hugging a son. "We want him happy," she said into my shoulder, "and he's happy when he talks about you." When she let go, his dad finally looked up, serious but not angry. "I don't get this," he admitted hoarsely. "Don't know if I will anytime soon. But he's my son. And if you make him happy, I'll figure it out." It wasn't a movie moment. Not everyone immediately accepting, but it was honest. It was real. It was a beginning. Leaving that house, he was different, lighter, like he'd dropped something heavy he'd been carrying forever. "Thank you," he said, holding my hand walking to the car. "For being here. For sticking with me when I was lost. For making me brave." "You were always brave," I said, stopping to face him. "You were the one who whispered. You were the one with the courage to say it, even when you didn't understand what it meant." He smiled and pulled me in for a kiss right there on the sidewalk under a streetlight. Not hidden. Not rushed, just real. A few weeks later, we went back to the gym. Where it started. Where he whispered and time froze. First time walking in together as an actual couple. I was nervous, but he squeezed my hand and whispered, "Together?" And that was it. Some guys nodded like normal. Some stared for an extra beat, clearly processing. But nobody said shit. Actually, one of the older guys came over and hit us on the shoulder. "Finally stopped pretending," he said with a grin. "We all knew anyway." We laughed. Because it was true. Because the fear had been so much bigger than reality. Because we could finally just be. That afternoon training together, he looked at me between sets and whispered, "I love you." Not secret, not panicked, just calm, natural, right. "I love you too," I said out loud, unafraid. "Everyone can hear it." He smiled that smile that breaks me, then kissed me. In the middle of the gym, people around, life happening. Because we didn't need hiding anymore. No more whispers. Later in his car in the parking lot, he was quiet for a while, just staring out. "You okay?" I asked, thinking about how different everything is. He said, turning to me. "I remember asking you to be my training partner, saying yes instantly. Thought it was just friendship. Thought I had myself figured out. Now? Now I know I don't have all the answers," he said quietly. "Still don't know what to call myself. Gay? Bi? Something else? But I know one thing for sure." "What?" "I love you. That's all that matters. You're all that matters." Tears came, but they were happy tears. Relief. Gratitude. "I was so scared of losing you I almost lost myself," I said, cupping his face. "Thank you for being brave enough to whisper the truth. Thank you for letting me be part of discovering who you are. Thank you for waiting," he said, kissing my forehead. "For letting me figure it out. For not leaving." Then he smiled, that smile from day one, and whispered in my ear again exactly like that day at the gym. "I love you." But this time, I said it back out loud so everything could hear. "I love you too." Not a whisper this time. We kissed there in the empty parking lot under the stars, completely ourselves. Nothing hidden. No more whispers. No more secrets. Just us against whatever comes. That moment when time stops. When a whisper changes everything. That gave me a whole lifetime. We don't know what's ahead. Coming out isn't a finish line. There'll be hard days. People who don't get it. Moments where doubt creeps in. But there'll be moments like this too. Love, truth, bravery. And we'll take it all on. Honest, real. That's how life is supposed to be. Sometimes the scariest whisper becomes the most beautiful truth you live. And this is ours. Started with a whisper. Became a declaration of love that beats in our hearts. If this hit you, if you've had your own moment of courage, tell it in the comments. That moment you decided to be real. To love out loud. And if you're still waiting, it'll come. And it'll be worth every fear, every racing pulse, every tear shed. Because real love always is. Always. Subscribe for stories like this. Real stories about love, identity, becoming yourself. Stories about the courage to live your truth, love your person, become who you're meant to be.